Okay, hello everyone. For this month's Fearless Fridays, I'm here with Jay Dike, who's calling in from the US. Jay, why don't you start by telling us briefly hello and what were you doing before and what are you doing right now?
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Anna. I appreciate it. Yeah. So as Anna mentioned, my name is Jay, and at the moment I am in Boulder, Colorado. I moved here about a month ago to kind of focus on some projects. I went kind of freelance and dived into the entrepreneurial world probably about 6 to 8 months ago now, from a full-time position, and I work on a whole bunch of eclectic stuff. So it's kind of tasting pies of all variety to figure out kind of where my curiosities and interests really lie. So I work on Facebook ads, and a whole bunch of other digital marketing stuff. I'm helping someone with their Kickstarter project. So they've kind of built this incredibly innovative product, and I'm helping to kind of just bring it to life. I run an adventure company. It's a very small company at the moment. We're just actually trying to monetize it. And that's kind of focusing on the adventure world and trying to bring together people who want to go on adventures and guides who run unique trips around the world. What else do I do? I kind of various little projects, and side hustles in various different industries. Yeah, and I travel a lot as well, so I kind of go climbing and skiing and surfing and that sort of stuff. That kind of gives a broad overview.
Sounds diverse.
Yeah.
At what moment did you decide to make that change? You said sort of 6 to 8 months ago you really went freelance. What was it that made you make that decision?
The decision was actually made for me. I was made redundant from my job. I was working with Escape the City. I'm sure many of your viewers will know them. They're a fantastic company. Um, but yeah, there was some issues, and I was made redundant. And it was something that it always been like a little voice in the back of my mind, to kind of have that freedom to go freelance and kind of create my own income. And I suppose when I was made redundant, it was kind of just like the fire under my ass to kind of make me do it. And I didn't want to go into another 9 to 5 kind of weekly job. And I didn't really want a remote job with one company. I wanted to kind of test and explore my curiosities. So I suppose the decision was made for me, essentially. And I'm glad it was, because I don't know if how long it would have taken me to actually, say let's quit and try something myself. But I suppose I would have liked the option to. I know a lot of people do. They keep their full-time job and they start something on the side and slowly like kind of make that transition rather than just cutting it off and starting something immediately. But yeah, my advice would be quit. Just throw yourself in the deep end and give it a
You've already gone
try.
there. Well, that's interesting because I think there are advantages of both, right? And in fact,
Absolutely.
after I quit, I was reading the Escape Manifesto, and they said, ironically, don't quit without a plan. And I was like, oh no, too
Yeah.
late. And I guess for you too, sort of in a weird
Yeah.
way. So, what were you doing
So,
before Escape? What was your professional background before then?
again, a relatively eclectic and diverse background. Immediately before Escape, I was kind of just job hopping. I just moved to London, and I was just trying to make some money to kind of pay the bills and set myself up. So I was working in sales, in customer service, and in like technical drawing. So a kind of past life, I was a furniture designer. So I'm quite handy with AutoCAD and TurboCAD and construction drawings and that sort of stuff. Yes, I worked with various different companies in like the housing and construction industry for about a year. And then before that, I worked in sales a lot. I once worked at a tire kind of place, fixing and repairing tires when I was just out of school. Um, yeah, so a pretty random background, but that is probably what's most beneficial about it all, because I kind of got experience and knowledge from working in customer service, from working in sales, from working in design, dabbling in marketing, that sort of stuff. So it kind of gave me this ability to wear many hats and kind of have snippets of knowledge in many different fields. But then also it can be a disadvantage because there's the whole you're not an expert in one thing. You dabble in many things, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And what have been the biggest challenges in the last sort of 6 to 8 months of trying to set up on your own and dabbling with all these different projects?
Um, Probably uncertainty. I've been battling with like dealing with uncertainty and not really knowing where the next paycheck's going to come from, where the next gig is going to come from, and in all honesty, I don't know how many people talk about this, but financially, that's been like a huge struggle. Throughout like having a full-time job, I've always had my savings, which is just like never touched. It's just always there, and living on whatever I'm earning. But it's been kind of the other way around at the moment, where I'm living on my savings and whatever I'm earning has just gone to try and help replenish what I'm spending. I suppose it's like I got myself to blame, traveling and whatnot. But yeah, those would be the two biggest things. It's just the uncertainty and the financial side of things. And I say on the financial side of things is just trying to keep on top of it all, expense tracking and income tracking and all budgeting and that sort of stuff. I've never done that before. So learning how to do all of that has certainly been a new venture.
No, that's so interesting, because in a job we don't do that, right? We just have the income coming in. You sort of put your head in the sand. They're doing the pension and the insurance, whatever it is, and you think you're fine. As you said, you are actually automatically, if you have an okay, salary, building up some savings. And certainly in that sort of startup phase, it's likely that you will be drawing on some of those. Also, the uncertainty, as you said, it's really the flip side of the freedom that we love. Unfortunately, that I guess comes with an element of uncertainty that's sort of in its nature.
It kind of makes you feel like an imposter sometimes, really, as well, because sometimes you have to deal with some sort of project or I don't know, piece of work that you don't really know anything in, but you don't want to say that you don't know anything in it, or you've kind of got to figure it out yourself. So it makes you kind of feel like you're a bit of an imposter sometimes.
Well, I can imagine, especially when you're doing a lot of different projects, because I find that, you don't become a specialist necessarily in one thing. And I think the so-called imposter syndrome is more likely to rear its ugly head, when you're really doing a lot of different things, because of course you can't be, a complete expert in one area. But again, that's, I guess, the two-sided coin, in that there's an excitement to that, and the fact that you are able to learn about it and you are able to deliver great work. So,
for sure.
And those are the challenges. How did you get the support during this time, and how have you managed to stay positive and keep going?
Yeah, I suppose I was quite lucky with that, because coming from Escape the City, I was surrounded by just like-minded and very open and caring people who they have the knowledge in the whole freelance world and dealing with all the common blockers and struggles that freelancers deal with. And I, over the 8 months to a year that I worked with them, I made really good friends, and they supported me a lot, because obviously they made me redundant, so they were quite active in helping me to figure out whatever it was that I wanted to do next and how to get there as well. So when it came to like finding clients, they helped me out a bit there. Specifically, one friend, Johnny, he helped me a lot. And yeah, in terms of emotional support, that was probably the mixture of just 3 of my very good friends who are all entrepreneurs themselves. They've kind of started companies and failed companies. So I was very much a newbie at it, and they were kind of like the big dogs who knew all about this world. So they were very supportive and just were there for me to lean on. But other than that, Google, YouTube, like just figuring stuff out. Like I suppose I spent just hours and hours and hours and hours of time on my laptop just reading and writing. And I started meditating. That just really helps to kind of keep your mind clear. I know a lot of people say this, but I went on like a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat, and that just really helped to kind of, I mean, I could talk about that for an hour, but I won't talk about the benefits of that, but it really helped to kind of channel my mental energy and focus on the things that I wanted to achieve, and that certainly helps.
Yeah, that is even I have resorted to that sometimes, probably not as much as I should, but as you said, especially with all these different projects, you get a bit frazzled sometimes, and there's a lot going on, so just centering yourself a little bit is hugely helpful.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
What is the best part of your current work and lifestyle?
I'm gonna have to pick this answer wisely. It's probably somewhere in between having the freedom to be where I want to be and go where I want to go. I'm in Boulder at the moment, which is a pretty cool thing. Like, I didn't expect to be here. It was literally a 4-day decision. A friend of mine was coming here, and I had just become homeless. So it was either do the cliche thing and go to Bali or come out to Boulder. So I kind of had that freedom. I didn't have to tell my boss that I wanted to go to Boulder, or I didn't have to see if I had available leave or something. I just packed my one bag and came out to Boulder. So that freedom is really cool. Also, again, it still sits on the freedom side of things, but not having to do 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So, for instance, tomorrow I'm going skiing the entire day. Whilst I'll probably be thinking about all the work I've got to do while skiing, I can still do that. I can come back that night and maybe get some work done. Yeah, and I'd say a very close second would be just the connections and the friendships and relationships that are formed with people. I have never met and conversed with so many interesting and smart, intelligent people in such a short space of time, because freelancers, we're all struggling. Of course, we're successful too, but we all need each other to lean on and to find clients and to find advice and to find solutions to problems. It just creates this like community, both online and offline, and I really love that aspect of it.
And is that part of your plan to continue to be location independent, or it's just that now you happen to be free to go?
Good question. I don't really know at the moment. So my kind of short-term goal is to do the whole van life thing. It just kind of helps to not really have to have pay rent. So I suppose the short answer is yes. I do want to see a lot more of the world and travel a lot more, but I also like the concept of having just a base for my stuff, and when I do want to just switch off from traveling and not showering for 4 days, to just be able to go home and do my own bed and have my stuff, that sort of thing. So somewhere balance between the two, I suppose.
And based on your experience so far, what advice would you give to someone, I guess, in the same situation as you, who hasn't necessarily chosen this situation, but actually feels, you know what, I'm going to give it a go, this is something I've always wanted to do. What, if you could go back, I guess, and give yourself some advice, what would you say?
I would probably tell them to just really rely on your connections and your ability to be open and gregarious towards people, because the whole freelance world and finding clients and being successful is all about those connections and those networks that you have. You're not going to be a successful freelancer on Upwork. So you need to just be able to work, I don't want to say work those connections, because that sounds a bit negative and almost as if you're taking advantage, but you're not. But it's just kind of be open and giving, but also let yourself take every now and then. So it's like a kind of a reciprocal thing, the whole pass it forward sort of thing. So yeah, I would say all those connections in the past that you've made, maybe you haven't spoken to them in a few years, open those up again. See who's out there who needs help. See who's out there that can help you. And get on top of your finances before you don't let it slip before you realize, oh shit, I've got no money. Start doing that now. That's like one of the most important things.
Yeah.
And always put money aside for tax. Don't let that catch you up. Those are probably quite common pieces of advice, but really important ones. Yeah.
No, but I mean, the money piece, as you say, is, again, we haven't really had to do it in the past. A lot of us, I think, don't necessarily learn about it growing up, and we don't really think about it, and then suddenly it becomes very important. And I think it is easy to just close your eyes to it and think, oh, la la la, it's going to be fine. But actually, the more you track it, the more on top of it you'll be, and that's a much safer situation to be in. Do you have a sort of a business plan going forwards for how you're going to make sure that you'll be earning enough to be able to continue on this route without using all your savings and?
If I'm honest, no, not really. It's something that's on my very long to-do list, which is just to figure out finances and my own kind of mission statement and vision statement, and what I want to achieve, why I want to achieve it, and how I'm going to actually monetize and be financially stable throughout that. So there's something I'm going to do. It's another piece that I think all entrepreneurs and freelancers should do, like a personal finance plan. But I haven't done it yet, because obviously all sorts of stuff are getting in the way of that.
But it sounds like you are working on these different projects, and it also sounds like you are committed to making this work. So you will, even though you've maybe done it a bit backwards in a way, almost you've sort of gotten accelerated forwards, and now you need to maybe lay some of the foundations in place. You are happy in
absolutely.
continuing with the freelancer route.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's one thing that I've discovered about myself is I have a very active panic monster. I let the panic kick me in the ass and get me to do things rather than kind of foreseeing what might happen and preempting that and possibly preparing for that. And
Okay.
I've kind of come to terms with that, I suppose.
It's a friendly monster.
It's a friendly monster, yeah. But another piece of advice that just popped into my head is set a time in the evening to close your laptop, because it's quite often that I end up working, and I'm not an evening person, but sometimes I'll work till 10, 11, 12 at night, and next thing you know, I'm like, whoa, all a bit spaced out, and then the morning's a bit slower as well, and there's always books I want to read and other friends I want to see. So I think it's important just to be able to like really switch off sometimes.
I agree. But what is it that makes you work so late? How come you suddenly realise at midnight that you're still working?
An overwhelming sense of stuff to do. Because I suppose we always have these big projects that we want to achieve, and we set a certain amount of stuff we want to do in one day. But around that, there's always life admin, and there's always little things or little articles you want to read, or a photo you want to post to Instagram, whatever it might be. And there's always just lots of little things, and you end up kind of falling into this rabbit hole and researching what new camera you want to buy or whatever it may be. So I suppose it's just knowing when to say, this can be done tomorrow, or this can be done within the month. It doesn't have to be done right now.
Yeah, that's, I think, about setting priorities, and it's something that takes a lot of time and experience. But as you said, there's an infinite to-do list. So really we need to be, okay, does this actually need to be done today? And also making that space, first of all, for everything else you want to do. The whole point of this is the freedom and the skiing and all these things, right? And secondly, to make sure you're taking care of yourself and that you're well and healthy, because otherwise even the business will suffer.
Yeah, there's a great quote by Ernest Hemingway, which I'm probably going to say wrong, so maybe paraphrase quote, but it's something around the lines of always finish your day or always finish your sentence half written, so that when you wake up the next day, you immediately fall back into that zone rather than finishing your sentence and then not knowing where to start the next day. And I think it's similar with like your task or something. Finish halfway through something so that you know where you start.
That's a great idea. Otherwise you waste the morning sort of faffing around, not really knowing where to go. Otherwise you can continue. No, that's great. I don't think you bastardise that at all. I think that's pretty much the quote. So great. Well, thank you so much, Jay. If you want to find out about some of your projects, or where can we find you in the online world?
So I have a frightfully outdated website, which is just jaydike.com. Yeah, that is on my to-do list. Instagram, again, is Jay Dike, and Dike is spelled D-I-K-E. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. In terms of where can you find projects, you can have a look at my adventure company, which is Adventure Goat. So that's a website is currently being updated as well. Other than that, that's pretty much it, to be honest. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, that's plenty. So I'll make sure to link to those in the notes as well, and then maybe I can reconnect with you in a year or 2 years' time and hear more about how you built your empire.
I will look forward to that.
Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story, Jay, and good luck in the coming weeks and months.
Thanks, Anna. Appreciate it.